Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. The slide is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. So in last class, you have seen about the design of flexible payment. Okay, that's as per IRC 37. Now this is how to design the rigid payments as per earlier one, 2011, revised one or recent one is 2015 for IRC 58. So before that, what are the factors governing design? So the first thing is the traffic consideration. You have to find what's the traffic or number of commercial vehicles. In rigid payment, you have seen one formula where you can calculate the MSA, million standard axles. Okay. In case of traffic, in case of rigid payment, because you're considering the temperature stresses during day and night, the traffic has to be counted separately for during day and night time. Okay, because during the night and day, the warping pattern is different or the crack developed is different. So it has to be considered separately, the traffic during daytime and traffic during nighttime. Then what's the loading, what's the load coming or axle load coming from each of the axle of the vehicle, what's the temperature variation. That depends on which area for where you're constructing the road. Then what's the thickness of the pavement, depending on that only this temperature we have to consider. And what's the properties of the subgrade soil and properties of the concrete. Finally, we have seen that here the flexural strength of the concrete has to be compared. So the properties of the concrete is important to us. So the loading here means axle load characteristics. What's the wheel load characteristics? Know how many axles? For each of the axles you have wheel base also. Know what is the distance between the axle or wheel base? Then where the location of the load with respect to the slab. Because as far as rigid payment, it's continuous. In case of flexible payment, it's like throughout it will be. In case of rigid payment, you have to consider the joints also. No, so where you are placing your axle, whether it's near to joint or far away from the joint, as it is in between the joint. So this position of the load is also important in case of rigid payment. And also whenever you are finding the stresses, it will be noted either it's from the interior slab, also three portions, either from the interior of this interior portion or middle of the slab. In the edge, the stress will be varying, or in the corner region, if you are taking, the stress will be varying. Because why the stress is varying is, in case of center portion, it is not, it can't, like it's not free to move in any direction. Edge portion, like at least in one direction it's free. In corner is free to move on other direction if there's no constraints is there. Okay. So the other important one, as I mentioned, temperature. In that there's positive differential, differential and negative temperature differential. Students, 1 second. Okay, so positive temperature differential, negative temperature differential, and built-in curling. So how to find this positive and negative temperature differential? So this so temperature differential means this is the difference between the temperature of the pavement top and bottom. Okay, so during daytime, the top portion will be comparatively, the temperature at the top will be more than at its bottom. So there will be, and it is reversed during night. So there is temperature difference between the top and bottom, and this differential that depends on what's the temperature, ambient test temperature, and also based on the thickness of the pavement and where the location or which region it is, right? So during daytime, the pavement top temperature is more than the bottom temperature. And you can see as the difference is positive, the differential is termed as positive temperature differential. During daytime, the temperature at the top is more. So the temperature at the top minus bottom temperature, you will get a positive value. That's why it's called as positive temperature differential. During night time, the temperature at the bottom is more than at the top. So the difference will be negative. So it's called as negative temperature differential. Okay. If you know the temperature variation, you can take or assume that if it's not, IRC have suggested based on the study conducted by CRRI, Central Road Research Institute, New Delhi. So based on that, I have taken a small sample of that. So it's given for all the artist region throughout the country, like for various slab thickness. So if you are taking in the first, you can see in the hot one like North Tamil Nadu, okay, or Maharashtra, Karnataka, South MP, all these regions. If the pavement temperature, if the thickness is 150 mm, you can take the temperature as 17.3. If it is 200 mm, 19 degrees Celsius. This is the positive temperature differential. So code has given only for positive temperature differential. So to get the negative temperature differential, what you have to do is the maximum negative temperature is the differential is temperature differential is taken as half the maximum positive temperature differential. Okay. So if it is 19, so 17.3 means for 15 centimeter, that's a positive temperature differential. So 17.3 by 2 will be the negative temperature differential. Okay. Next is properties of subgrade. So subgrade properties like subgrade strength and properties, subbase properties is important. So for that you have to know the modulus of subgrade reaction. Okay. So first property of subgrade, this you can measure from the plate load test using 75 mm diameter circular plate. So the modulus of subgrade reaction, if you are using other plate, it can be corrected based on this formula. So from plate load test, you are supposed to get the modulus of subgrade reaction, which is to conduct the plate load itself is tedious. So if you are not able to conduct the plate load test, you can this correlate this K value, this modulus of subgrade reaction value from the CBR test. Okay, so if the CBR value of the subgrade is 2, then as per IRC, the K value can take it as 21 megapascal per meter. Similarly, if it is 3, it is 20, and it's given for other CBR value also. Okay, this is for the K value of the subgrade. Suppose above the subgrade, if you are providing like subbase is provided at DLC. DLC means dry lean concrete. Okay, the main concrete for the rigid pavement is called pavement quality concrete. That's called PQC, pavement quality concrete. And the below that you will be providing a lean mix only, very lean mix. In that one it's called dry lean concrete. So if you are providing above the subgrade, the subbase, K value of the subbase, if you are providing like 100 mm of DLC, then in that case You know that the subgrade CBR, if the CBR is 2, your subgrade CBR is 21, K value is 21. Again, above that, if you are providing subbase of 100 mm, then the modified K value is 56. Okay, and if you are providing 150 mm thickness of DLC, then it's taken as 97. Similarly, it's given for other values of K value. Okay. The important properties or parameter which you have to know is the properties of concrete. No, so usually for this M40 concrete is used, so we have to know the 28-day compressive strength and the flexural strength can be determined by beam test. You know that the FCR is equal to 0.7 under the root FCK. So the modulus of elasticity is taken as 30,000 MPa. Poisson's ratio of concrete is 0.15 and the coefficient of thermal expansion value is 10 into 10 raised to minus 6 per degree Celsius. So for the further designs you will be using these values or this parameter only. Hello? Sir, நான் கிளாஸில் இருக்கேன் கொஞ்சம் அப்புறம் பேசுங்க 1:30. Okay. So the modulus of it is elasticity, Poisson's ratio, coefficient of thermal expansion, it has to be taken as per this. Then the fatigue behavior. Okay, fatigue behavior means what's the flexural stress divided by the flexural strength of concrete. Okay, I'll tell you how to find the flexural stress. Flexural strength is obtained from this 0.7 into under the root of FCK. That depends on what's the grade of concrete you are using. So stress ratio is given by flexural stress by flexural strength, and this value is unlimited. N is equal to unlimited if N means the number of fatigue repetitions, how many load it can take or how many repetitions your payment can sustain. That's the N value. N is equal to unlimited or infinite. It can take infinite number of repetitions if the stress ratio is less than 0.45. Okay, and N value is equal to this 4.2577 divided by SR minus 0.4325 raised to 3.268 if the stress ratio lies between 0.45 and 0.55. Okay, if the stress ratio is greater than 0.455, then N has to be calculated based on log N is equal to 0.9718 minus stress ratio by 0.0828. So you have to check whether you have to find the stress ratio, check whether if it is less than 0.45, then it can take infinite number of repetitions. If N is equal to, if it lies between 0.45 and 0.55, we have to use this formula. If it is greater than, if the stress ratio is greater than 0.55, you have to use the log N formula. Okay. So design this concept. In this, you have to consider the stresses due to load and also due to the stresses due to the temperature variation or differential between the top and bottom of the slab. So the combination of the factors that induces the maximum stress in the pavement is the critical stress condition. That will vary, depends on whether it's summer or night or okay, different situations. And see, curling of slab. Curling of slab means can see during daytime, or in the first one it's given during night time. We have mentioned, we have seen that the temperature at the bottom. Once. Sir, I'm in class. Good morning, sir. Class again, sir. Sir. So curling of slab. So during night time, you can see that the temperature at the bottom is more than at the top. Okay, so as the temperature at the top is small, just imagine you're preparing a roti or a chapati in the hot plates. What will happen? Your edges will curl up. Okay, that's it is phenomena. As the base is hot or bottom is hot, the edges will curl up. because the temperature at the bottom is more than at the top. Similar way during daytime, so what happens is the temperature at the top is more than at the bottom. Okay, so what will happen is the center part will raise up, and keeping the edges lower, the center part will raise up. So first figure is during a night time where the upward curvature of the slab with tensile stresses at the top will be developed, and in the bottom figure, second figure is during daytime, that's a downward curvature of the slab with tensile stresses at the bottom. Okay, so first one is during daytime. You can see the slab will curls up. So if you are checking this figure, you can see as the slab is shrinks at the top. So what will happen? It will try to expand. No, it is forced to contract. So it will try to expand and come back to its original shape or position. So in that way, the tensile stress will be developed on the top. So where you can see like the red portion, no, this here the tensile stress will be developed during night time. Okay, as the curling is upwards, here the tensile stress will be developed because its self weight and all, it will try to come back to the original position. Because of that, the tensile stress will be developed here. Due to that, what will happen is the crack will be developed at the top during night time. The crack will be developed at the top and it will propagate towards bottom. Okay, that's why it's called as top-down cracking. Okay, top-down cracking. But during daytime, what's happening is your the center portion will raise and edges are at the bottom. So here the tensile stress will be developed at the bottom of the slab. Okay, so the tensile stress will be developed at the bottom of the slab during daytime. So due to this, what will happen is the stress or the tensile stress will be developed first at the bottom and then it will start propagating upwards. Okay, that's why it's called as bottom up cracking. So whenever you're designing, you have to design for top down cracking and bottom up cracking, and the traffic what you have to consider is also different, because for top down cracking it's during night time, so you have to consider the traffic only during night time. For bottom up cracking, you have to consider the traffic during daytime. Okay. So this is very important. So the phenomena top down cracking, this occurs during night time where the temperature at the bottom is more than at the top, and the tensile stress will be developed at the top of the slab, and the crack will be first formed at the top and it will start propagating downwards. That's why it's called as top down cracking. And during daytime, the slab will, the center portion of the slab will curls up, and the tensile stress will be developed at the bottom of the slab because the temperature at the top is more than at the bottom, and here it's called bottom up cracking. So various stress charts are given in the IRC 58 to find out the flexural stress. Okay, flexural stress. So here I've told you the flexural stress by flexural strength. So strength I mentioned, you can just find out depending on the concrete grade, that's FCR. So I'm telling you now how to find this top portion, this flexural stress. Okay. So flexural stress, this you can various charts are given. This is a typical graph. So you can see here, this graph is for single axle load. It's a single axle category. In single axle itself, you can have different loading conditions. Single axle with 80 kilonewton, and the temperature variation. The temperature variation between the top and bottom of the slab is 0 degrees Celsius. It's given for various K values. On the right, on the top, you can see. On the right side top, you can see the K. These charts are given for curves are there for various K values. Modulus of subgrade reaction. It's the modified modulus. If you have like DLC, you have to take accordingly. Okay. So if K value is 40, 80, 150, 300, it's given. In between values, it can be you can do the interpretations according to interpolations according to this. Okay. So what here, and the x-axis is for various thickness. So depending on the thickness of the slab and for the K value and single axle load for what the load and temperature variation, and keep in mind this is for bottom up cracking. Okay, so you can take the flexural stress value based on this. So you take the flexural stress from that design chart divided by the flexural strength will give you the stress ratio. From the stress ratio you can calculate what's a capital N value. Okay, so these charts are given typical values. So here like this various charts are given in the IRC code for both bottom up cracking and top down cracking. So you have to design it separately. And like for various axle load categories, for single axle, tandem axles, different categories it's given for various load, for various temperature variations also it's given, and whether your shoulder is tied or untied. Shoulder where you can have concrete shoulder itself with along with some reinforcement, that's called tight shoulders. So depending on that also it will vary. Okay, this one a similar one with tight shoulder as I mentioned, and see here that similar curve, but the delta one second. This one for delta T is equal to 0. This for delta T is 13 degrees Celsius. This one for delta T 0 but with tight shoulders. Okay. Similarly 13 degrees Celsius for tight shoulder. Similarly it's given for all the other charts are there in the IRC code it's given, and IRC have suggested if you find it difficult to use this class, you can use the formulas also. IRC has given what is the formula they have used for developing this design charts is also given there. Okay, so there are various charts, but I have given only typically this. You can refer to the IRC code for the other charts. So next is how to find the cumulative fatigue damage. So the rigid pavements undergo fatigue damage through crack initiation and crack. This is due to the repeated application of traffic load. Okay, so this fatigue damage caused to the slab during its entire lifetime is termed as cumulative fatigue. So if you are designing for 30 years, up to 30 years, so what is its life? No, how many repetitions it can take? That's a cumulative fatigue damage, whether it can withstand that or not. So stresses, as you have seen, it's taken from these charts, and you have to use this formula to get the cumulative fatigue damage. So cumulative fatigue damage means it's sigma over I over j by Ni divided by Ni. See, the first formula is for cumulative fatigue damage for bottom up cracking. Okay, so this bottom up cracking is during daytime. So you have to consider the traffic 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. That's during daytime. This night second formula is for top down cracking. So this is based on 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. traffic. That's during night time. So Ni, capital Ni is the allowable number of load and temperature differential cycles for the wheel load group during the specified 6-hour period. I to J, I told you like a single axle with different loads. Like that you can have single axle with 80, single axle with 100. So various categories. Then tandem axle, the different groups, axle load groups can be there. Those groups are I. Okay. This small Ni, capital Ni, I don't know whether I got it. This capital Ni is from this formula. This capital N is you have to use a flexural stress from the design chart, flexural strength from the based on the previous this formula. You will get the SR value from SR you can find N value. This capital N you are substituting here in this formula, and small n you can obtain from the, because you have to do, say for the first formula you have to do the traffic survey from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. You do the traffic survey, then find out what is the number of load or number of loads for each cycle, for ith load group, how many vehicles are there. It's a predicted number. If you are designing for 30 years, for 30th year, until the 30th, how many number of this axle group will come? That value is Ni. That is obtained from the survey only. Okay. So Ni is obtained from the survey, and capital Ni from the stress ratio. You just find sigma. This for each axle test group you have to find out this. Add all this. J is the total number of load groups. If you have 10 load groups, then J is 10. Okay. So this recommended design procedure means stipulate design values of various parameters, like you have to find K value, then the flexural strength value, all the parameters what is required. Then in this, it is not a formula where you can get a direct like thickness. You are assuming a thickness and checking whether that whatever the thickness what you have assumed is correct or not. Okay, it's safe or not. That's what you're checking. So assume a suitable trial thickness, then compute the number of axles operating during peak 6-hour period at daytime to find the bottom-up cracking, and at night time for top-down cracking. Okay, find the cumulative fatigue damage to axle load groups for this bottom-up cracking, and this value should be less than 1. The CFD for BUC and CFD for DC should be, these values should be less than 1 to have if your thickness is safe or enough, then the value will be less than 1. If you find like the cumulative fatigue damage is greater than 1, either you increase the thickness or you have to do the modifications in the properties, either the flexural strength or with the K values you have to do the modification. Okay, got it? So final thing is you have to find the cumulative fatigue damage, and this value should be less than 1 for both the bottom up cracking and top down cracking, then it's safe. If not, you have to change, either increase the thickness or modify the material properties. Other important parameter, other important thing what I want to tell here is bonded and unbonded rigid pavement is there. Okay. So bonded rigid pavement means I mentioned to you, you can have a dry lean concrete above the subgrade or subbase layer, then you can have the good quality or pavement quality concrete. See, in many cases what it is done is, you can see whenever the rigid pavement construction, you can see a polythene sheet will be laid between this dry lean concrete and the concrete slab. Okay, a polythene sheet will be laid between the dry lean concrete and concrete slab, so that these two will act differently. Okay, and if you're not providing this polythene sheet, if you're not separating these layers, what will happen is your dry lean concrete and concrete slab will act monolithically. What will happen? Your thing is the neutral. The center of the neutral axis will shifts down accordingly. Okay, you can see two spots. If you're separating with a dry lean concrete, your center of the neutral axis will be for DLC, it will be h by 2, and for this concrete slab it will be h1 by 2. If you are providing, if you're not providing the concrete, this polythene sheet, these two will act together, and you can see the neutral axis will shifts down. Okay, it shifts down the dotted line. Okay, that depends on the dimensions and the properties, etc. Okay, so either you can go for bonded or unbonded rigid pavement accordingly. So bonded means a monolithic action of payment slab and DLC is exploited. So you can slightly reduce the payment thickness, and whenever you're doing the joint cuts to 1/3 of the depth, that should be there in the DLC also. It's acting together. So you should provide this cut should extend to the dryland concrete layer also at the same location wherever you're cutting the concrete pavement. Okay. And 7 days compressive strength of DLC layer should not be less than 10 megapascal. So this is the design of for how to find the thickness of the rigid pavement slab. Next important thing in this rigid pavement is the design of joints. You have expansion, contraction joints, construction joints are there, longitudinal joints are there. So this expansion joints and all this is basically provided to provide to ease the expansion of the slab. If the temperature variation is there, the slab will expand. So if you are not providing a way or provision for that, then the stresses will be developed. Okay, so you should provide expansion joint should be provided, and in between the expansion joint you are providing double bars are provided. Okay, you have two bars, a double bar and this you can see tie bar. Tie bar, what it will do is it will just hold the slabs together. But if you are providing double bar, this will allow the transfer of load from one slab to another slab. Okay. So it can transfer the load from one slab to another slab if it is jointed by double bar. And this is expansion joint, so which you should provide or give a way for the slab to expand also. So what is in double bar, you can see a gap is provided. This joint sealing compound is there and it has to be filled with a joint filler. That material depends on it will be able to contract and expand. Then double bar is provided. The way you have to provide the double bar is in one slab, the double bar is firmly fixed. Okay. In other slab, the double bar is free to expand and contract. You can see it's coated with thin coating of bitumen so that it's free to rotate, and you should provide provision for its expansion also, space for the expansion. That's why a cardboard or a metal cap partially filled with cotton waste you will provide. So you'll get a gap for the expansion of this slab also. Okay. So one slab it is firmly fixed, other one it is free to expand, so that in other slab alone it's coated with thin coating of bitumen. Okay, this is expansion joint. And similarly you have dummy contraction joint. Dummy contraction joint means you will be giving a cut of to a depth of d/3 to d/4, then automatically this portion, the cut you are providing only up to this will be developed automatically. If you are cutting the slab up to here, this portion, the crack will be developed automatically in this. That's why it's called dummy contraction joints. You need not provide any sealant or anything should be provided in this one. This also can provide a double bar. Here also half is fully bonded and other half it's painted with thin film of bitumen for easy movement. Then other one is butt joint of longitudinal joint with tie bar. Tie bar, as I mentioned, only if you are providing double bar, only load transfer will be there. But if you are providing tie bar, there is no load transfer, but this will hold the slabs together. That's fully bonded tie bar. It's to be provided. You are not providing this bitumen coating for the bar. The surface, no, wherever this joint is there alone, it's painted with bitumen. Okay. So this is the recommended dimensions of the double bars, no, where you have to based on the thickness of the slab, what is the double bar diameter and length and the spacing to be provided is given in the code. And similarly, this is for tie bar, based on the thickness, what should be the diameter and the maximum spacing if you're using plain and deformed bars, and minimum length of the bars also it's given. Okay, that's the design of rigid payment. In this also rigid payment design, it's not that easy as flexible, because you need to know the traffic during like day and night, because you know it's based on the bottom up cracking and top down cracking. So you have to know the traffic during day and night, that too with various like for axle category it's need. And IRC itself have given an Excel sheet. An Excel sheet is given to find out, but you have to get the traffic based on this. Okay, so I will just give a demonstration or explanation how to find the design based on the Excel sheet on the next class. Any other doubt in this?